We stay with US targets. We looked at APAC. We are now going into some specific countries. The first one, of course, is Cuba, because this is one of the oldest flashpoints, but it is also a country which has significant cultural ties with the USA. People to people relationship between Cuban exiles in America is a significant driver of US policy. So, Cuba is just about 90 miles away. You can see the orange dot over there. From there to Florida is 90 miles away. On the right bottom, you can see the large yellow dot, Guantanamo. Guantanamo Bay is a US territory. It is an area given over to the US under long-term lease by Cuba uh, and by an agreement and treaty which Cuba honors despite being a hostile government and despite US-Cuban hostilities. It respects the treaty under which Guantanamo Bay is a US territory. Cuba is treated as a great tourist destination. You have very, very famous Havana cigars. In 1959, a communist regime led by Fidel Castro and Che Guevara took over Cuba and nationalized US businesses in Cuba, which included sugar, rum, cigars, and more. In 1971, the US tried to invade and overthrow the Fidel Castro regime, which was a failure and an embarrassment for the US. And then there have been several assassination attempts on the life of Fidel Castro, supposedly by the CIA of the US, none of which worked out. Fidel Castro died of old age a few years ago. In 1962, the Soviet missile crisis. The Americans always had missiles in Western Europe that could reach Russia, but Russians could not reach America till Cuba offered space. And that would have brought America within the direct range of Russian missiles and what's known as the Cuban Missile Crisis, which John F. Kennedy successfully stared down Russia and made them back off from installing missile launchers in Cuba. So this animosity and confrontation has survived to this day. Fidel Castro is dead. Raul Castro took over. The successor government or the successor personalities continue the policies of the Fidel Castro regime. Over the years, many millions have migrated to the US and they have ties, they have family back home in Cuba that they would like to support. Some of the people of Cuban origin are now senators in the US Congress. We have Marco Rubio, who also had an unsuccessful run for the nomination as he tried for the nomination of the Republican Party to run for President of the United States. Robert Menendez and then Ted Cruz, who too competed for nomination by the Republicans for contesting as President of the United States. Neither Marco Rubio nor Ted Cruz won those nominations. Donald Trump did, who then went on to win the US election. But the presence of these personalities and a large number of people of Cuban background in America constantly works on people to people contact, if not the overthrow of the regime. So there's a long history of sanctions. In 1960, after Fidel Castro took over, and then next year he nationalized everything American over there. So yes, US sanctions on Cuba. US citizens can travel there. In 1977, there was a relaxation which lasted all of 6 months. You keep having this change. In 1996, Helms-Burton Cuban Freedom Act banned commercial transactions with Cuba to force Cuba to comply with the US worldview. In 2009, President Barack Obama brought about a relaxation which once again allowed US persons to travel to Cuba. And then ships were allowed to travel to Cuba carrying food, medicines, and dispatches from relatives. This is the politics of having a large Cuban emigre population in the US that wants to look after their families, the rest of them in Cuba. In 2015, certain activities were permitted. In 2017, under President Donald Trump, all the restrictions were back.